there's a growing belief that the Pittsburgh Steelers, well, they might not be moving on from a name that is likely going to upset some fans, but it needs to be talked about. What's going on, everybody? I'm Noah Strackbine. Thank you for jumping on to Steelers to Go, your daily to-go cup of Pittsburgh Steelers news and analysis. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. And just like we've said all week long, make sure to go check out Monday and Wednesday's full All Steelers Talk episodes for your chance at not one, but maybe two signed jerseys, a Mean Joe Green and Jack Lambert jersey that we will be giving away tomorrow on Friday's episode. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they're 6-3. They feel real good about where the season is. And despite some struggles on offense, the fingers, those that are being pointed, are right now directed at Kenny Pickett. And it's concerning. The Pittsburgh Steelers might have a quarterback situation, and they might have a situation that they have to adjust and change after the season. But for right now, they're sticking with Kenny Pickett. They believe in their quarterback, and they hope that at some point he does turn it around and find a way that, yeah, the Pittsburgh Steelers can win for 4 quarters, not just one, and that Kenny Pickett is not a fourth quarter quarterback, but instead a game winner from start to finish for the Pittsburgh Steelers, just like they imagine he one day will be. When will that happen? We don't know. In the meantime, everyone has full expectations that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to move on from offensive coordinator Matt Canada at the end of the season after 2.5. This will be 3 years of just poor performances from the offense as a whole, lack of adjustments, and, well, very, very loud criticism from pretty much everywhere and anywhere that has discussed the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last 3 years. Here's the thing. Maybe we are all jumping the gun a little bit quick, and maybe, just maybe, the Pittsburgh Steelers might not be done with their offensive coordinator. There is a growing belief that the Pittsburgh Steelers could hang on to Matt Canada after the year's out if Kenny Pickett somehow, some way, finds the success that the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for. There is a belief with 93.7's The Fan, Doran Dickinson, who started this debate, started this topic of conversation, and then Mark Caboli from The Athletic jumped on it and said, yeah, I agree. If Kenny Pickett does turn things around, if he does find the level of success in the play that the Pittsburgh Steelers feel very confident in, why would they make a change at offensive coordinator? And instead, they'll likely extend Matt Canada. His contract is believed to expire after the season, but if he's sticking around, chances are they get another 2, maybe 3 years of their offensive coordinator, and fans are not going to be happy about it. Right now, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. The Pittsburgh Steelers fan base does not want Matt Canada sticking around past this season. Chances are they don't want him sticking around right now, but at the same time, they want Kenny Pickett to develop into a successful and thriving quarterback, and they don't want to fall into a situation like the New England Patriots or the New York Jets where their quarterback just isn't up to par, and it's very noticeable, and it's the reason that that team hasn't reached the masses that they hope they could reach, the levels that they hope they could reach. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they're kind of falling into that same boat. Yeah, they're 6-3, and they're half a game back in the AFC North, but everybody has a pretty low ceiling on what this team can accomplish more towards the end of the year and definitely into the playoffs. And that's almost exclusively because of Kenny Pickett and the low bar that everybody has set for this kid. They look at him right now as a guy who cannot compete with a Patrick Mahomes. He can't compete with a Tua Tagovailoa or a Lamar Jackson in the postseason, or maybe a Joe Burrow. And yeah, 2 of those are AFC North teams that change a lot, but it's just a grand scheme of things. If the Pittsburgh Steelers found themselves with an opportunity to make a playoff run, it's hard right now to say that they have any opportunity, any chance at beating any of those top tier teams just because they don't know if they could compete for 4 quarters. And if it turns into a shootout, Kenny Pickett is not your guy. He's not going to be able to handle that situation, and the Steelers are going to lose, and chances are they're going to lose in pretty dramatic fashion. Now, where do I stand on the situation? Well, I think it's simple. I somewhat agree with it, and I've thought about this for a couple of weeks now. Since Matt Canada's moved down to the sideline, so 2 weeks, I've had the belief and the thought that if the Pittsburgh Steelers turn this around and if they somehow make the playoffs and Kenny Pickett becomes just a stud quarterback, what is there left to be desired with the Pittsburgh Steelers offense? And I'm not trying to say that they would be perfect and that they couldn't get better. I still think that at best they'd be above average, and that the offensive coordinator play and the schemes and the play calling itself and the lack of adjustments, below bar. But if Kenny Pickett hits, if he starts to thrive, if he becomes the guy for the Pittsburgh Steelers, then the offense is clicking as a whole. The run game is moving strong. The offensive line looks really good. The wide receivers are obviously great. Your quarterback is fine. There are no reasons to look at your offensive coordinator and say, it's time to move on. And the Pittsburgh Steelers will use an excuse that small to stick with Matt Canada. On top of that, if Kenny clicks in this second half and things start going really strong for him and he is that guy and they find new levels of success with their quarterback play, we saw it last year as the reason that they kept Mitch Trubisky and Matt Canada, because they want to be cautious with their quarterback. They don't want any hiccups in Kenny Pickett's development. Well, at this point, you are working with the most baby gloves you could possibly have when it comes to Kenny Pickett. And I have a hard time believing that if they see any light at the end of the tunnel, if they get any glimpse of hope, that they are going to take those gloves off and say, oh, okay, well, we'll figure it out with somebody new next year. No, if we're being realistic, chances are that they sit down and they say, well, why would we risk screwing this up? And they would keep Matt Canada. Would it work? I highly doubt it, but maybe. And the Steelers are going to take that chance because that's who the Pittsburgh Steelers are. This is a long road ahead for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but obviously a topic of conversation that we will have to monitor in the upcoming weeks and nearing the end of the season. This all relies on Kenny Pickett, and right now there are no signs that he's taking a step forward or reaching another level of play or any of that. Right now, Kenny Pickett is a massive problem, and if the Pittsburgh Steelers went into the offseason today, you change your quarterback and you change your offensive coordinator. And even if you're not ready to give up on Kenny Pickett, you bring in some really healthy competition to say, okay, well, we're at least going to try somebody new. And when it comes to Matt Canada, if the season ended today, it's a no-brainer that you're moving on and you're finding somebody young with some experience, but has that juice that this could be the next generation of great offensive coordinator expectations that the Pittsburgh Steelers desperately need. But there's half a season left. The Steelers have done crazier things. And Kenny Pickett, I mean, he turned it on at the back half last year. I have a hard time saying that he will not, that there's zero chance that he'll turn it on this year. And if he does, man, the conversations we're going to have are crazy, because nobody would have expected that Matt Canada sticking around and the debate on whether or not he should or whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers will keep him would emerge at all during the 2023 season.